Hi, Cancer. We're going to be reading 3 cards for you today. These are connected to Deep Honesty, which is a container that's exploring the Tethered One or the Hanged One energy on the Feral Unfolding Substack. I'd love it if you wanted to check it out. But for now, we're going to read some cards for you. So the first card is going to be about what's holding you in this kind of Tethered One, Hanged One energy. Ooh, of course, not surprised. The King of Cups. Not surprised because it's you, Cancer. Okay, so now the next card is going to be what is changing perspective as you're being held here. Changing perspective for Cancer. Ooh, the Two of Wands. Okay. And then lastly, what truth is emerging for Cancer? Whoa, okay, that one jumped right out. And it is the Two of Pentacles. Okay, Cancer. Let's see, you got 2 twos, nice. Okay. So the King of Cups being the thing that's holding you feels very much like your own emotional maturity is kind of what's keeping you in place right now. It is the part of you that's saying like, no, we need to stay. We need to be still while we figure this out or while we move through this process. And I think that it's a very gentle, like I feel the King of Cups is very gentle and very loving and also very clear on what's going to be happening. I mean, there's a definite maturity in them that helps us to stand in those emotions, to stay in those emotions longer, which like, I think you, Cancer, know that that's one of your gifts, is to be able to be with those kind of emotional places for longer or deeper than others. And so then when you're in that kind of emotional, deeper emotional space that this King of Cups is kind of holding you gently within, the perspective that you're changing is the Two of Wands. So more traditionally, the Two of Wands is kind of the place where we imagine where we're going, like where our passion is going to take us. The place where we're kind of seeing the rest of the journey before we're actually on it. And I think the Two of Wands is also quite magical card for me. It feels very much like you are walking through a portal into this like quest or adventure to really experience what your passion has to show you, like needs to show you. And so the Two of Wands kind of changing makes me wonder, like the perspective of that changing makes me wonder about like how you're coming to understand that moment of future visioning. How has that felt previously and now it feels different? I also, for some reason, really want to say that maybe you think that you're here in the Two of Wands, but you're actually maybe somewhere else. It's interesting to say that. It hasn't come up with any other of these readings, but I think that there is something about how like you are maybe assuming that you're here in the Two of Wands, that you think what you're doing is Two of Wands work, but the perspective that's shifting is maybe that you're realizing you're actually not in Two of Wands, but maybe that you're in Two of Pentacles, or maybe that you're in the Three of Wands or the Eight of Wands, or you're somewhere else in the process, it seems like. I say it could be that you are realizing that you are in the Two of Pentacles because the Two of Pentacles is the truth that's emerging. And the Two of Pentacles to me is this like kind of dance, kind of understanding what you're holding, how you're keeping things moving, and the choice if you want to, like if you want to keep doing that. I think that it really is this negotiation between the parts of ourselves. I mean, I think that that's true in this card, which is focused on like the 2 snakes, one dark and one light. And I feel very much like that balance of you, that balance inside of you is actually what's needing your attention, which is like maybe why you think you're in a Two of Wands moment, is because there are two things that are like kind of mirroring each other in this card. And that could feel like, oh, this is the portal. Like these are two things that I can move through. And then as you kind of stay with that in this kind of emotional space, you maybe come to realize that both of those two things that you thought were the portal to go through are actually two things you are in relationship with. You are moving in order to help everything stay stable, right? And you are actually needing to choose either between them or to continue this process of holding both. It feels like that kind of understanding of like two of Wands becoming Two of Pentacles is the kind of deeper emotional understanding of your part, the part that you are playing in this kind of two moment, right? I think twos can definitely be like a choice point. Are you going to walk through that portal? Are you going to put down one of these two pentacles? And I think the choice you thought you needed to make is maybe not the choice that you're actually being asked to make. And maybe the Two of Wands is like the Two of Swords, or, you know, the Two of Cups. Like maybe you're not even understanding the other options of what it could be, but this perspective shift around the Two of Wands allows you to see this two moment in a very different way, which then kind of brings forward this truth of the Two of Pentacles being present. That you are in movement, you are in action, you are physically connected to these things and making them flow. You are making them move. You are moving yourself to be able to keep connected to these things, which is a very different energy than the Two of Wands, which is about you kind of standing still between two things and moving through them if you need to or if you're ready to, but not necessarily that you are moving them. I think there's a sense that you're coming into your own power about a situation that you're in. That this King of Cups, this like emotional maturity inside of you is like, okay, pause. We need to be with this for a minute in a deeper way. And when you're with it, whatever the situation is, in a deeper way, you're able to then feel into where your power actually is and where you have thought you didn't have power. Where you thought you maybe had given it to someone else, that it was maybe someone else's responsibility. And now you're realizing, oh, this is my responsibility. This is something I have been creating. And then the choice becomes, am I going to continue creating this? Do I want to create something else? Cancer. This is an interesting reading. I'm very curious about like how this is playing out for you. But I do feel like you're coming into something about yourself. You're coming into knowing how you participate in something in a very different way than you realized that you did. Yeah. Okay, that's it, Cancer. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. We're going to start with Scorpio. Okay. I see one of them, but I don't see the other two, so we will flip those together. So the first one about what is holding you is the Nine of Wands, which is an interesting card to be holding you, honestly. So let's see what the other ones are, and then we'll kind of move into the story of it. So what you're needing a new perspective on is the Nine of Pentacles. A lot of nine energy here. The Nine of Pentacles. Okay, and then what energy or what truth is emerging is the Two of Wands. All right. So it feels like what you're needing to explore to create this new perspective is around how you know when you have gotten what you wanted. Which maybe sounds weird. But how do you sense, how do you feel in your body, how do you understand when you have been satiated? The Nine of Pentacles for me is like you're right on the verge, right? You're right on the edge of this kind of material or physical fulfillment of something that you've been working really, really hard towards. And you can see that it's coming. You can see that it's right there. And so right now in this moment of kind of suspension, being present with how you know what it feels like to be satisfied. I read recently that the ego never knows. The ego doesn't know how to be satisfied. And that really stuck with me because I feel like there's something about maybe just mine, but maybe everyone's psyche, that it can feel very hard, especially when we have like dreamed into something, of like imagined into something, wanted something very deeply. The actual act of getting it it feels like very rarely does it live up to what you thought it would be, right? And so the Nine of Pentacles here feels like it's an invitation to like change your perspective on what it feels like to become satisfied, to get what you want. And maybe like accepting or moving forward with how sometimes disappointment is part of that. How sometimes the lived experience of something is not exactly as good as or as deeply fulfilling as what we imagined it would be. But that doesn't mean that it's not good enough, right? And when we can be present with that kind of allowing, we can actually see something even better happening if we're not transfixed on the idea that it has to be like we imagined it to be. So it feels like there's like a very important gift coming forward in your kind of suspension space, Scorpio, because you're being invited to open up to the possibility that satiation or that satisfaction could be something even better than what you had decided it would be. And this comes between these two. So the Nine of Wands is on top, the Two of Wands is on bottom, which feels like what's holding you is a kind of exhaustion. In some ways, like you can't go forward right now. And that's what's kind of holding you in the suspended space. Because if you were to go forward right now, you would not be able at all to accept whatever is going to come next. You would feel like it wasn't good enough, like it couldn't actually fulfill you if you tried to keep going right now. And you'll keep going, but there's a pause here. There's a moment of reflection, a moment of like giving yourself some rest so that you can then walk into the Ten of Cups in a way that feels much more aligned, where you can accept what's happening. You can accept this kind of satiation point or satisfaction point in a way that you could not if you tried to just keep pushing forward. In my personal deck, the Nine of Wands speaks about do not be tamed, which I think is such a powerful reminder for the wand suit specifically, and something that I think you're needing to hear right now, because maybe what's happening is this point of Nine of Pentacles is about you're having to settle for something, or you are risking settling for something. And the Nine of Wands wants you to reconnect to what it is you actually desired. And that kind of perspective shift of coming back to what did you dream that this could be? What did you want that this to become? That's actually just as important, if not more important in some ways, than what is going to happen. And if you can hold both at the same time, there's a perspective there that you actually need. Because if we don't have everything that we want in the thing that we've been working towards, if that isn't what's coming forward for us, then there are still seeds to be sown in the dream experience of what we wanted. So even if we didn't get it in this specific iteration of whatever it was we were trying to like create in our reality, there are still things in us that need to be replanted, that need to be resown, and then can grow into somewhere else, right? So that do not be tamed feels like don't make your desires smaller. Don't make what you want only what could be. Because when you do that, you really limit the fact that not everything grows at the same rate. That there are going to be things that grow very quickly in your life that are able to come into fruition quite fast. And then there are going to be other things that take a while because of your own processes, because of the world you live in, because of the ways that your relationships are, the things you have access to. There are so many reasons why something might need a longer growth period. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to get it. It doesn't mean that you can't be satisfied. It means instead that when you go back to what it was that really fed you in that initial desire, there's more there. That desire can be replanted, can be pulled apart so that you know what is satisfied now and what is still longing. And then the truth coming forward with this Two of Wands feels in connection to that, right? The Two of Wands is about being in a place of imagination, of like dreaming forward where you want to go, what could come next as you step through this portal of like choosing or desire, right? And so that perspective shift of the Nine of Pentacles is bringing you back to a place. That's it. It's bringing back to a place of what actually fed you in this initial desire that created all of the things that led up to where you are right now. And where you are right now is a portion of what you long for. It's a portion of what you have had initially desired, and you need to now go back to that initial desire and pull out the pieces that have not been fully grown yet, that have not gone to fruition yet. And when you do that, you can then plant those again and come back into this kind of dreaming, understanding, imagining into space that is way before we get the physical experience of something. In order to get the physical experience of something, we actually have to do a lot of work that's physical and internal, emotional, mental, spiritual, interpersonal. There's like a lot of work we have to do to be able to get to that satisfaction point. And sometimes that can move fast, but this is saying that something that you have worked really hard towards is coming for you, is coming towards you, and you're right on the brink of it. And at the same time, there are seeds inside of that flower that you need to pluck. You need to pull out, because those seeds have not grown yet, and you will replant them and they will come into fruition at a later point. But if you don't stay in this kind of tethered, suspended space and really find what those kernels are, those dreams will be lost, because you will feel like, okay, this was all that could be of that dream, whatever is in your physical reality or what is coming into your physical reality. This is all that could be. But that's not the truth. And this kind of suspended time is what's going to bring you deeper into an understanding of there are more desires to be planted. There were more desires in this moment of whatever is coming into fruition that still need to be planted again. and dreamed into again and felt into again, because they will nourish you in the future even though they're not ready right now. That's it. That's your reading. Hi, Pisces. Okay, we're going to do a 3-card spread. It is connected to the Tethered One, or suspension, the Hanged One. And we're going to be exploring deep honesty and how we find our own truths. So the first card here that we're going to pull is about what's holding you in this suspended state. You have the 7 of Wands. Interesting. Now, what is needing, or what is having a perspective shift happen while you're in this space? Okay. Let's try again. Perspective. What is shifting perspective in this place? Pisces. Ooh. 6 of Cups, Pisces. Nice. Okay. And then what truth is emerging from this perspective shift for Pisces? 6 of Pentacles. Okay. Double sixes. Nice. Okay. So the 7 of Wands is a really interesting kind of container to be in, a thing that's holding you. It makes me think that, like, maybe there's some conflict or tension happening with, like, how people are perceiving you, how you're perceiving yourself. Maybe there's, like, some energy around needing some truth telling, needing to be honest about some things that maybe it feels like are going to cause some tension or some energy coming at you. Or maybe you have already experienced that and now you're kind of like stepping away. You're kind of taking your own space to be able to, like, understand what's happening, right? Yeah, it feels a little bit like you're feeling kind of isolated. Like you're feeling like people are maybe not understanding you or kind of pushing you into a corner with something. And maybe that's the space that's kind of holding you, is that you feel like other people are kind of making you stay put, making you stay in this kind of suspended, tethered state so that you can have a process for yourself. Maybe they don't know that, right? But it does seem a little bit like you're having some tension with something else that's kind of causing you to stay held here. But then, like, what the perspective shift that's happening in this kind of intense 7 of Wands energy feels like it's about, I mean, Pisces, I do feel like you're quite like a sentimental sign, or at least my experience of folks who have strong Pisces placements is like quite sentimental and romantic and like very nostalgic in some ways. And the 6 of Cups also brings that forward for me. Like this imagery I think is quite beautiful. It's different than some of the more traditional decks, but there's these 2 folks who are kind of like, or 2 people, bodies, that are sharing something in this kind of vacuum space is what it feels like for me. And I feel like that's like what nostalgia is, or like that's what our memories can be, is this kind of like void vacuum kind of space that doesn't necessarily always connect to everything else that had been happening or connect us to what's happening currently, right? If we are in that kind of nostalgia, remembering, kind of romancing the past space, it can often feel like it's a kinder view of what happened, and it's also taking us out of where we are currently. So I guess in some ways this kind of perspective shift around the 6 of Cups is maybe like inviting you to explore how you engage with past experiences, how you engage with what you remember about things previously, and what that kind of engagement reinforces in you. So if you know that you tend to be a little bit dreamy about how things were previously, maybe the perspective shift is around like being a little bit more authentic about what actually was happening, being a little bit more real about the feelings you were feeling, or the ways that things came to light, or how people were engaging with you. If you're noticing that like when you're nostalgic or when you're back in those kind of past memories, they're actually like quite painful, you're remembering them in ways that bring up a lot of painful emotions, maybe the perspective shift here is about holding those things in a different way that feels kinder to you, that really holds and honors what was nourishing, what was needed, what was beautiful for you in those moments, especially if you're kind of ruminating on those kind of experiences or past stories or past relational things. I think that we get to choose what stories are told about our past and about our experiences, right? And that is a very important power to know that we hold, because we have the capacity and the ability to remember what is most important for us to remember. And if the stories that we're remembering, the things that we are remembering, hurt us more, bring up bitterness, bring up resentment, then that might be an invitation for us to change how we're remembering so that we can hold more hope, so we can hold more gratitude. And not necessarily for those people or for what happened, but for ourselves, like that we lived through that we became different because of that we grew from it. I think shifting that perspective on why and how we engage with our past feels very significant for you in this kind of in-between time. And from that, you're emerging with this truth about the Six of Pentacles, which for me is about this like reciprocity, this reciprocal nature of things. And I mean, I think the sixes are really interesting here that you have two of them. But the Six of Pentacles for me is about exchanging with others in ways that feel equal, that feel caring, that feel like we are both engaged in ways that nurture and nourish us, both as someone who is able to give something and as someone who is able to receive something. Because we're both, whenever there's an exchange happening, we're both doing that, right? We're both receiving and we're both giving. And so this truth that's kind of coming forward for you, I feel like is inviting you to reframe or understand what happened in the past through a reciprocal lens, through a lens of what were they giving me? What was I giving them? What did I receive in that? And what did they receive in that? And that kind of reciprocity, that way of looking at things through that kind of reciprocity can help that perspective shift. You all are actually the first ones who, like, the truth that's emerging is helping that perspective shift. Whereas I feel like there's something really important about that. And that's why I'm naming it, is because if that truth is not able to come through, if that reciprocal experience and expression is not one that you can emotionally connect to, then this perspective shift might not happen as easily, or might be a lot more difficult for you to move towards, right? Because it is in the like sharing of things. And it might even be, I mean, like with the Six of Pentacles, we're talking about material world. So it might actually be that you're sharing these experiences of the Six of Cups that keep coming forward for you. You're sharing them in a physical space with someone else. You're sharing them, or you're making something from them, right? It could be that you're making art, you're making writing, you're creating something in your physical world from these kind of stories and memories and nostalgia that you carry about what has happened previously. And through doing that, there is a reciprocity that's happening between you as you are now and you as you were then. And I think that is actually really cool to think about, like the reciprocal nature of us and our past selves, or us and our future selves. I think that that could be a really beautiful thing for you to explore as you're kind of negotiating what it means to shift your perspective around memory or around past relationships and experiences. Yeah. I do feel very curious about the Seven of Wands experience for you, Pisces, because I'm not, it feels very strange to me that you would have like a Seven of Wands moment happening right now. But maybe that's also part of this past stuff. Oh, okay, that thank you, that makes sense. So the Seven of Wands energy now is feeling more like you are maybe putting yourself in a corner by the stories that you're telling yourself, by the ways that you're bringing up old things that happened, by the memories that you're kind of connecting to that make you feel like you need to be pushed up against, like you need to be kind of come after, right? Or like, you know, not allowed in. Like there's something about the stories that are coming forward have really made you feel like you are backed into a corner, when really you are doing that to yourself by the way you remember, the things that you remember, the stuff that you're going back to. And this kind of perspective shift is an invitation to release yourself from that corner. Release yourself from feeling like you are being attacked or being victimized or being seen as the villain. Because that's not, everything is more complex than that. Regardless of what happened, there are complexities here. And in those complexities, that perspective can shift and you can feel into that reciprocity that we're talking about. A kind of reciprocal nature between yourself and your past self, or yourself and the person you were engaging with then, or, you know, whatever that kind of memory space is. What can be reciprocal here? How can you engage with reciprocity here? So there you go, Pisces. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I will see you very soon. Bye.